Welcome into another edition of SJHL Insider. I'm your host, Clark Munroe. We're here in the IKS Media Studios here today. We got a fun week that's gone on so far. So we're going to recap 6 games over the last couple of days, a couple of big upsets, a couple of messages sent to the rest of the league. So we'll dive into that. Plus, we're going to be joined by, speaking of upsets, head coach and general manager of the Nipawin Hawks, Tad Kozun, is going to join us later on in the show. We're going to be excited to chat with him and dive into those couple of upsets, beating Melfort and Flin Flon in the last couple of weeks. So that should be a ton of fun. And we're going to look at we're going to have some fun with some top 5 players. Me and Nugsy will rattle off our thoughts on some of those. We'll take a look at the standings. We're going to take a look at players of the month because we haven't talked about that on a show yet. Got announced the other day, but we'll dive into those a little bit more. But first, let's thank our sponsors, of course, as we thank Borgo, Cantera Seeds, Capital Automall, SAS Lotteries, Chevrolet, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, Nutrien, Tourism Saskatchewan, Sask Energy, UPL, sponsor of all of our broadcasts, of course, SGEU, Great Western, SGI, our podcast sponsor, and RBC, the community ambassador sponsor, which they've been popping off lately. You've seen a lot of RBC if you're paying attention to SJHL.ca, or if you've gone to any games lately, there's been a lot of RBC game nights. So shout out to them for being a big partner of ours. And speaking of partners, I always find a good segue.
That's good, really good.
Jamie Neugebauer, partner in crime here at the SJHL, voice of the Notre Dame Hounds. It's been a busy week. Well, it's been a busy few weeks, Jamie. Let's be honest.
It's been a busy season.
It's been a busy season. You had a game of the week last week. You have a game of the week this week. You've been on the road. We've done there's lots of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. Tons of stuff posting this week. Lots of articles. Of course, a new month, Players of the Month. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's been busy. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine.
You okay? You keeping on? You keeping up?
I'm keeping on. Thanks for asking. Yeah, last week was crazy. Monday to Wednesday there in Winnipeg, and then home for a bit. See you later, wife and kids. Off to Estevan for Game of the Month. Mm-hmm. But of course, I always love calling games with Rory. It's like riding a bike so easy. Great crew as well.
Some
great
people
time.
don't know how to ride a bike.
I do not. Actually, I don't know how to ride a bike.
Actually?
Personally, yeah. I can ride an exercise bike.
Wow.
Obviously, I don't do it as much as I should.
Right. Sure.
As people can see.
Sure.
But, so it was a crazy week. And then this week has been recovering from that week. But lots of work to do as usual. But you too, you work super hard. Everybody in the back works super hard. We're all in this together. And it'll be a lot of fun to go back to Kindersley tomorrow as well for Game of the Month. Can't wait for that.
So what I'm getting is that you don't know how to do a broadcast with Rory because you said it was like riding a bike.
Well, I mean, the people that know how to ride a bike, apparently if you stop for a while, you can jump right back on.
Yeah.
But if you've never really done it, then it's probably quite hard.
It's a metaphor, folks.
Metaphor.
That's what we love to do here is throw metaphors around and educate.
This is art.
Yeah. It's let's dive in, Nugi, because it is time for the parade round. It's time! I love that. That keeps developing over time, and it just gets better and better. Of course, Prairie Proud apparel sponsor of the SJHL. Nugsy's got the sweater on. There's a hat over there.
It's freezing in here.
It is cold in here, so you made the right call.
Yep.
But yeah, I got some great stuff. I've been wearing their golf shirt that they gave us on all of our SJHL game day videos, of course, on a daily basis. So shout out to Prairie Proud. Let's get into it now. There was 6 games, 3 Tuesday, 3 Wednesday. So let's have a look at Tuesday's games. This is the big one. We're going to be talking with Tad Kozun shortly about this one. Nipawin with a 3-0 shutout victory against the Flin Flon Bombers to end the streak. They are officially the Brock Lesnar to the Flin Flon Bombers Undertaker, Nugsy. Ending the streak, a big, crazy streak. And for 2 weeks in a row now, Nipawin has upset one of the top 2 teams in the league at home. So exciting time for the Hawks franchise and for the fan base. The Battlefords North Star has had a 4-1 victory in Davidson against the host Notre Dame Hounds, and we'll get to Nugsy's thoughts on the neutral site game in a moment. Melfort sent a message to the rest of the league, defeating Yorkton 3-1. A nice, clean game from them. We'll talk about that in a minute, because they also, on Wednesday, as you can see on the graphic, beat the Weyburn Red Wings 5-2. Again, sending a message. 2 top 4 teams took care of them. The Battlefords North Stars on the road, this time actually in Wilcox, a 4-2 victory against the Hounds. And then Humboldt got in the action as well on Wednesday with a 4-1 home victory against the visiting Estevan Bruins. Nugsy, let's start with the Nipawin Hawks, a 3-0 win over Flin Flon. The Bombers rode their 26-game win streak into Nipawin Tuesday night, but left with the win streak being snapped as the Hawks put together a 3-0 shutout victory for their second massive upset in 2 weeks on goals from Carter Anderson, Mason Karakachuk, and Eric Hoynes. Kenneth Marquardt made 29 saves in the loss, while Gage Roberts backstopped the Hawks to the win, making 25 saves in the shutout. Nugsy, this is an exciting time for Hawks fans, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying it all year.
Yeah.
They've been playing the right way. They're not a bad team. Just a little young, a little inexperienced, had injury issues, had Nathan Clayton leave,
Right.
etc. So, hey, they're heading to something good. Just love listening to coaches talk to each other. In Winnipeg, I was listening to Trevor Blevins, the coach of Melfort, of course, talking to Tad Kozun, and Trevor was like, hey, you know what? You've got a really good thing going. Just keep those guys together, and it should be great for you next year, and it's hard to argue. They got something going, and this is just the second time Flin Flon has been shut out all year, and it's a totally different ball game because last time Flin Flon was shut out, it was October the 22nd at home against Yorkton, and Callum Craig made 50 saves in a shutout. That wasn't this. This was a game that the Hawks played very, very well throughout. Only 25 saves needed for Gage Roberts for that shutout, as you said. The expected goal for Flin Flon was 1.65 on the game. Usually it's over 4. That's their average in the league. It's the highest in the league. They average over 4 expected goals, the Bombers, per game. That's 1.65. Great defensive play by the Nipawin Hawks, who got a good young decor they put together on the fly. And I'm sure Mike Reagan, they lost 26 games unbeaten. I'm sure he was not thrilled that that it was maybe against the 12th place team. But again, Mike Reagan has nothing but respect. I know because I spoke to him for Tad Kozun and the Nipawin Hawks, and could happen to against anybody. It's about time. The Flin Flon Bombers played great against Melfort, didn't play that great against Notre Dame in Wilcox the previous time, beat them 7-1. But that all just said, Nipawin deserves a lot of credit. Got big goals from Carter Anderson, Karkachuk, as you mentioned, and Hoynes. Hoynes tipped in the shot from Connor Ryan, former Flin Flon defenseman.
Right,
so,
yep.
That would feel good for him. And but yeah, just good scoring chances were low for Flin Flon all the way around, and Nipawin deserves a lot of credit.
On this program, not a couple of weeks ago, Mike Reagan was sitting right beside you there, Nugsy, in the chair, and I remember him saying that day, I can't remember if he said it on the show or if it was off air, so I don't know if I should be saying this, but it's not a big deal. But he was basically saying, when the streak started, we were all pumped about it and everything, and obviously you want to keep winning, you want to keep pushing games to overtime, so that's good. But after it got to a point where it's like, okay, now it's just a headline, it's a topic, everyone's talking about it, we're getting targeted now, everyone's looking at us like we want to take them down. I have a weird feeling, yes, of course, like you said, kind of maybe they're not pumped it was against the 12th place team, but again, Nipawin's not necessarily a bad team at all.
No.
They've been playing great hockey, and maybe they'll be okay with just having the streak kind of done with, and they can just kind of move on and get back to their game and not worry about that hanging over their heads.
Yeah, no,
do you think there's something to that?
I think there's absolutely no question about it. Just go and play hockey and get back to things. And I remember talking to Mike last year about, of course, they had such a loaded team and they won by 100 every night. Yeah. And it seemed like it was easy as pie, and they ran into trouble in the finals and they lost. Yeah. And I remember talking to Mike during the year about, when he needed to make an adjustment, when he needed to tinker with the system, when he needed to do this or that. How did the guys listen? What were their eyes like when you talked to them in the room? He's like, yeah, honestly, Nugsy, sometimes they looked like I was speaking Chinese, with no disrespect to Chinese people.
Of course,
but just
it's a tough language to learn.
Very tough language.
That's all he meant by that.
He meant, he meant that they didn't seem like they were listening too closely because they just show up and score. Yeah. And that isn't this Flin Flon team, and we've been saying it all year. They are good, very, very good, obviously, but they aren't. The electric, dominant, top to bottom, never stops type of dominant team that we saw last year. They're a complete team that has to show up and play. Obviously, got great goaltending. It wasn't the best night for Kenny Marquardt. Hasn't been the best year for Kenny Marquardt, but he's got another year of junior to next year.
Good in
That's
stretches,
what he wants.
of course.
Great in stretches. Still, obviously, the starting goalie for probably the league champion Team Neugebauer. For being honest, I've got a huge lead. We'll get into that maybe on the show on Monday. But the last thing I'll say about this is very gratified for a great Nipawin community that has showed up. Bought their tickets, bought their season tickets. Yes, these tickets are up.
You love to hear it.
Love
to see it.
And they came out. I remember watching, calling that the game of the month, and against Melfort, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's gonna be a blowout, it's gonna be a blowout." And I was like, "I don't know, we'll see." It was packed, just packed. So kudos to you, Nipawin fans. You deserve, to feel good and keep those guys together. Don't leave players on Nipawin. Stick around because you got something special going.
Yeah, for sure. Let's move on. The Melfort Mustangs on Tuesday night took a 3-1 victory over Yorkton. If anyone wasn't sure, Nugsy, if Melfort was still the top team in the league, well, before this week, now the message has been sent, and it sure started well on Tuesday night as Zach Summers and Zayden Saddlemeyer got the scoring started in the first period, and that would pretty much end up being all they would need. Thomas Reese scored late in the second, but an early third period goal from Will Monroe was it ended all of it as the Mustangs beat Yorkton 3-1. Madden Malakas 27 saves on the night in the win, while Callum Craig made 33 on the other end. Why don't we compile this, Nugsy, if you don't mind, with Wednesday's game as well? Melfort with a 5-2 win over Weyburn. And they got multi-point games from Logan Belton, Zach Summers, Ashton Hutchinson, Zach Turner, and Ashton Paul, which led to another message-sending victory by the Mustangs over the visiting Weyburn Red Wings 5-2. Weyburn got goals from Matthew Edwards, which was his first as a Red Wing, and Liam Fitzgerald, while getting 35 saves from Angelo Zoll in the loss. Madden Malacca got the start again with 19 saves in the win. So this is the way I look at it. Melfort haven't been playing bad, and there's no reason to say that they were slipping at all. But when you look at the standings from a couple weeks ago to earlier this week, it was a lot tighter with Melfort and Flin Flon and Weyburn than it was a couple weeks ago. And again, nothing against those guys. Weyburn and Flin Flon were just winning a lot of games. They come into this week at home, I guess it was on the road on Tuesday in Yorkton, at home on Wednesday against two top four teams, Weyburn and Yorkton. The other way around, of course, Yorkton Tuesday, Weyburn Wednesday. And they didn't beat them handily, like we just talked about Flin Flon, maybe not running teams out of the buildings, but a 3-1 win and a 5-2 win against those two good teams, I'd say is a pretty great week, or at least start to the week. So let's talk about Melfort and then those two games as a combined unit, if you don't mind.
Well, the first thing to say is don't take penalties against the Melfort Mustangs.
Yeah.
Melfort was 7 for 12 on the power play this week.
Yeah,
I'll say that again.
Yeah. Say it again.
7 for 12 in those two games. Cody Mapes was very, very unhappy with how the Red Wings killed penalties. There were power play opportunities aplenty for Weyburn as well in that game. There were power play opportunities aplenty for Yorkton in that game. If we know one thing about Trevor Blevins, what does he do better than anything? He does lots of good things well. He does better than anything. The Melfort Mustangs always kill penalties.
Yeah.
Very, very well. They're over 84% again. Not a big surprise. So, Yorkton went 1 for 6. Weyburn got a pair. All 7 goals in that 5-2 game against Weyburn were power play goals. So 2 for Weyburn and 5 for Melfort. So, hey, don't take penalties. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, don't take penalties. And, it's just interesting to see, like I said, now that we'll look at the standings in a minute, but obviously there's a bit more separation again.
Yeah.
We've seen some movement this week overall, but those 2 wins, Weyburn's sitting in 3rd place right now, handily, with 5 points separation between them and Yorkton. And Yorkton's been hanging out in 4th for about a month now, at least. And you know what? Those 2 wins for Melfort, I'm assuming, coming into this week, they're starting a new streak. They've won 7 games in the last 10, but they've won their last 2 now.
Yeah.
They had lost before that, so it was like, I'm guessing it feels pretty good for them.
Well, the point to sorry for interrupting.
No,
I do want to just cut in there quickly.
Yeah.
There's also an element of the games in hand, and there's an element of the fact that Flin Flon Melfort was quite quiet for a while, didn't play much.
Yeah.
And Flin Flon played a lot.
Right.
So that also really helped. You got to win. The games in hand don't matter if you don't win them.
Yeah.
And Flin Flon again quiet this week, so Melfort a couple opportunities, and the one game Flin Flon did have, of course, we just talked about they didn't win it, which just goes to show SJHL, that parity.
Yeah.
Number 2 team versus number 12 team. even if you're the 2 team, you show up. It's not good enough. You got to do more than just show up. And I'm sure Mike Reagan has some willing listeners. Also, just to get back to this series, again, the Yorkton Terriers team, again, they've gone through all sorts of adversity this year. They've shown in terrific character time and time again. The guys that stick around, led by Jaron Denoye, their terrific captain. Obviously, Tommy Reese never fails to impress me. David Coyle, a great January. They're giving they had another shot to the gut, a couple of big shots to the gut.
Yeah.
But guys have really stepped up when needed to. You think about guys like Tylen Henriksen and Vinay Junek and whatnot. There's lots of heroes down that Yorkton lineup.
Yeah.
And, no matter what, they're going to stick together. Always impressed with the character of a lot of these teams, and the Yorkton Terriers probably near the top there.
Well, and it seems like Yorkton can't escape a couple weeks in a row without something going on.
Yeah, something bad, yeah. Tough.
And I hate to bring up old things, and we won't right now, just what happened earlier on in the year. But for those who might not have heard, I won't go super into detail here, but a couple big players for Yorkton have left the team in the last week or so, since the showcase last week. And it's a big chunk of production, I'll say. But as we've said all year long with Yorkton, they've got lots of horses to ride with.
Yeah.
And they have some guys down in the lineup or coming back from injury that now have a chance to get the spot that maybe they probably deserved all year long, but the lineup is just so talented. So I'm sure there'll be a couple guys step into new spots and fill those roles, and they'll be okay. But it is a big chunk of production that Yorkton lost, and that's going to take a minute or two to adjust.
No question. And they have, and they will. Another thing I'll say is, don't go on social media and rail against these kids, making these decisions. Do we wish that they would stay and stick with their teammates and stick in the playoff run and whatnot and not just jump ship? Of course, we wish that. But, whatever happens to them, I would hope, and I hope, and I'm sure you hope, that those guys who do depart, that they get their commitments and they do very well, because if they do that, it looks good on our league.
Yeah,
we're part of their development. We're part of their story, no matter what happens. So I know that, it can hurt. I know it's tough, and I'm not trying to tell you that it shouldn't hurt, but also remember, these are kids, and they're just trying to do the best for their careers. I love the way David Coyle spoke on the show.
Yeah.
When we spoke to him, he just said, like, we wish them all the best. And we still care about them, and that's how I feel like I got to know Dustin Renas a little bit this year, and just such a nice kid, such a good kid, and he made this decision, and so you got to live with it, and I hope he does great.
Yeah. And
let's not hope send any bad juju to anybody out there.
And if Yorkton fans are listening and they're like, oh man, this is tough. It is. Yeah.
Tough.
There's no dancing around it. However, when I think of this lineup, like I mentioned earlier, a guy like Jai Zawatsky, he was playing bottom 6 minutes a lot of the year. He's a top 6 player, no problem. He'll jump in that spot.
Yeah.
A guy like Tate Schofer, when he comes back,
healthy,
Tate Schofer comes back and he gets back in the lineup full time. That's a guy who can jump right into that top 6 spot, no problem.
Yeah.
Vinay Junek's having a really good rookie year. He can move up if he has to. I think Tylen Henriksen, like you mentioned him as well, I think he could probably fill some time if he has to.
Yeah.
Jeff Hammond has been in and out of the lineup, but he's fantastic in terms of his skill and his ability to create.
There's still lots to like, for sure.
Yeah, so I'm not overly worried about Yorkton. Yes, it sucks, but I don't think fans need to worry about it too much. I think you got a lot of horses there, a lot of dogs, so to speak, for the Terriers. Let's move on, though, Nugsy. I want to go to your 2 games this week. I know you missed one, but that's fine.
Well,
we'll talk.
I watched it, though.
You watched it. I know you weren't in the building, I should say. But 2 games against Battlefords, 2 wins for Battlefords, and it was 2 big wins for them. They needed it really badly.
Yeah.
I know both teams came in. I was going to say Yorkton for some reason. Notre Dame. Both teams came in with 4 losses coming into Tuesday's game.
Yep.
Battlefords now has won 2 in a row. Now Notre Dame moves to 6 losses in a row. But that pushed Battlefords back up into 5th place. So this is a big couple of wins for them. They needed it really badly after a rough stretch there. But it was 4-1 on Tuesday in Davidson. I'll get your thoughts on the Davidson game first. And then on Wednesday night, a 4-2 victory back in Wilcox. Nikita Ivashenko had a great week. You talked about him a lot in their group chat with myself and Rory. It seemed like Tuesday's game, there wasn't much, if I'm not mistaken, in the first couple of periods. And then all of a sudden, the dam broke.
Yeah.
And I mean the dam is in the thing that holds water. I'm not saying the curse word. But 5 goals in the third period, Nugsy. 4 for Battlefords, obviously. But big game, fun game. Obviously, all neutral site games have their own little twist and on how fun they are. Talk about Davidson. Let's start there.
Yeah, it was awesome. Someone mentioned to me, the Hounds should be used to it. Neutral site game, but it's an international ice. And so it was big ice. But, for whatever reason, the Hounds have struggled on Wilcox ice this year. So, maybe it goes to show. But look, the game could have gone either way. Both teams had plenty of chances. I know the shots, looked 46-30 for Battleford, but there were lots of shots and chances that Notre Dame had too in the first 2 periods. Yeah. And then the third period, just kind of a letdown in concentration for about 10 minutes, and the blink of an eye, it's 4-0 and a big hole to climb. And yes, Nikita Ivashenko, especially against the Hounds this year, I'll say, he has just been unplayable sometimes. And he's one of the most talented players in the SJHL. And when it comes playoff time, as long as he can stay healthy, that is no fun to watch. But I was speaking to Marty Smith before the game and talked about this was the first game all year that the Battlefords North Stars were able to play every single person that they wanted to all year, with injury and illness and everything going on. So, Jackson Allen was back in time, had played a bunch of games before, but he was back in time, to play hometown, of course, the hometown hero, the captain of the Battlefords North Stars with the championship ring from a couple of years ago. And so it was a great event. It was packed, absolutely packed. People there were super kind. Just another tough night for the junior Hounds. But again, I'll say it. I'll stand on the rooftop and I'll yell it. Spencer Borsos is a top 2-3 goalie in this league.
Yeah, 42 saves on Tuesday.
Yeah, he was incredible again. He was incredible all week. He's been incredible all year. And honestly, if you're a school, D3, a U Sports, whatever, D1 even out there, need a goalie, Spencer will give you his heart and soul. And he's an unbelievable young man. So I couldn't speak higher enough of him.
And then on Wednesday night, back in Wilcox, Ian Bior's actually opened the scoring, got them on the board, but Battleford's got 2 back right away. Hudson Kerr tied the game at the end of the second, but right into the third period, 30 seconds in, right away, Nikita Ivashenko got one. Yeah. They had another 2-point night game. A later goal from Rylan Williams sealed the deal. 4-2 win for Battlefords. And again, it pushed Battlefords into 5th place, so that was a big win for them. They needed it. Anything from that night?
Well, Hudson Kerr, I think he's been one of the real stars of the league in 2025.
He's been on fire.
8 goals out of his 13. Eight of his goals have been in 2025. So he doesn't stop scoring. I was trying to come up with a good pun on social media, and his name Hudson Kerr, Hudson Skur, something. I don't know. Someone send me a good idea.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. We'll workshop it. But he's been marvelous in the offensive zone. Kid can score. He can fly. He's got great hands.
Terrific.
Yeah, he's pretty terrific. Good kid. The weather was bad, and I wasn't feeling well at all. I understand there was a lot of kind of illness out of the Winnipeg showcase, so maybe I got something like that.
The old showcase fever, they say.
Rory, of course, was gone there from the. I guess Rory wasn't at the showcase, but he wasn't feeling good either.
Yeah, it's going around.
So something's going around, but something's
always going around. Let's be honest.
So I wasn't feeling terrific either. The weather was horrible between Regina and Wilcox too. So decided to stay home. But it was much better effort, I thought. From the Hounds, it was 2-2 going to the third, and then Ivashenko did Ivashenko things to start it, but in the third period there. But good for Battlefords. They're back in the saddle.
They're back in there. And then we'll finish it up. We'll move on to the Humboldt game. 4-1 win against Estevan. Boris Kaufman scored first and second for the Broncos, which proved to be enough as they secured a 4-1 victory at home against the Estevan Bruins. Bruins defender Kieran Ronan scored late in the third, but it was too late to mount a comeback effort. Zach Shaughnessy, 39 saves on the night. Big night for Zach Shaughnessy in the loss, while Brady Holtvolk got 28 saves for the win for the home squad. The win did allow Humboldt to stay tied for 6th in the standings with the Melville Millionaires, who have not played yet this week. But Humboldt still has 2 games in hand on both them and Battleford. So we could see that change as they make up those games. But Nugsy, what did you see or hear from the Humboldt game on Wednesday night?
Yeah, man, look, the Broncos, who wants to face them in the first round?
Yeah,
Put up your hand. Nobody.
Nobody.
Look, they
Right
won.
now, it's Flin Flon as of today.
Yeah, and I'm sure Mike Reagan would prefer not to see them either. Because the thing is, they've won 7 of their last 8 games, and that one loss was against Flin Flon.
Yeah.
So 5 in a row.
And a shootout.
So the Broncos are absolutely flying. They're getting contributions, from all over the place. Obviously, Jacob Streetsy had that insane week last week.
Yeah.
But he'll continue to put up points. He's a hard guy to stop. But Boris Kaufman can come at you, Marek Mamich, etc. Obviously, a big night for Boris. Cade Kennedy, I wondered what he would add to this Humboldt roster from the trade deadline. Of course, he played against his old team there in Estevan, where he was the captain of the Bruins. But he's just another great depth centerman. Like you think about Kai Banosh, you think about Skogstad, you think about Kennedy. The Broncos will win a big face-off whenever you need them to. Another magical year as well there for McElwain. He's one of the top, maybe one of the top 5D in the league. I'm sure one of us will at least have him on the list. But can you throw in, Jeter Cordy? They just don't lose faceoffs in big moments, the Broncos. And situationally, that's great. And the last thing I'll say is, they won 4-1. It was a playoff. It was a power play filled game, whatever. But through thick and thin, no matter what happens, they have Braden Klamosko on the bench. And who has more championship experience lately in the SJHL coaching than Braden Klamosko? Nobody. So Broncos are going to be no fun in the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of the playoffs, let's look at the standings now as we enter the weekend or proceed towards the weekend. As you can see, there's a little X up there by the Melfort Mustangs.
I was so worried that they make the playoffs. Worried.
Before Wednesday night's win, we just were not
really
sure if they were going to make the playoffs.
Sweating blood.
Yeah, it was rough. It was a grim picture with the Melfort Mustangs. But they have clinched. They're in first place, obviously, with 68 points. The Flin Flon Bombers are right behind them with 62. Their magic number now appears to be about 5. If they can get 5 or 6 points, they're also going to clinch, so that could happen within the next week or two. The Weyburn Red Wings are there in third at 56 points. The Yorkton Terriers with 51. Obviously, they lost to Melfort, so they didn't make up any points earlier this week. We'll see what happens this weekend. Battlefords did make up some points. We talked about that. They got 4 points. They were in 8th. They're now in 5th. With 49. Melville not in action yet this week at 47 points, which has allowed Humboldt to remain tied with them after their win last night against Estevan. So 47 points each for those two teams. And then the Kindersley Clippers hold that last spot with 45 points. Larange there with 37, so they're 8 out of a playoff spot. They have 2 games in hand on Kindersley at the moment. So they need to make up those games with wins. That would help a lot for their playoff chances, I should say. The Estevan Bruins with 34 points. They also have 2 games in hand on Kindersley. They are 11 points back. They need to start putting some wins together ASAP if they want to keep their chances alive. And the Notre Dame Hounds with 26, I should say, and the Nipawin Hawks with 23, which has now, of course, they beat Flin Flon earlier this week, so that's moved them up to 23 points. So there you go. There's a standings update for you. Anything to touch on before we move on?
The Notre Dame Hounds, with their loss, can finish no higher than 4th.
There's still time
in the standings.
There is still time.
If they win every game and lots of things go well, they can still finish 4th.
Still can finish 4th.
Yeah.
It's magical.
Let's go, boys. Come on.
The parity in this league.
Let's do it.
I'll tell you. I'll say it time and time again. Let's move on to topic number 2. We announced it earlier this week, but we wanted to mention it on the show, Players of the Month. So let's start off with the MVP of the month for SGEU, Keith Gruner. In 11 games played in January, he had 18 points. The guy is on fire. He has so many points per game. He's among the league leaders in points per game, 45 points in 33 games played. Huge month. Congrats, Keith Gruner.
5 shorthanded goals to lead the league.
Noted not Kiefer Gruner. Nukesy.
Well, I thought I'd make him a nickname there.
Yeah, Kiefer. I guess, you could call him that. Yeah. We'll move on to the forward of the month for January. Of course, that's Borgo. Sponsors this. David Coyle, we talked to him on the show last week. Guy is also on fire. 46 points in 37 games this year for the Yorkton Terriers. A great kid and a really great opportunity coming up, I think, obviously, with what we talked about earlier. They're going to lean on him a little bit more going forward, and I think he can handle it. The defenseman of the week, or the month, I should say, for Super U, Max Chakrabarty. Guy leads the league in SJHL, or in defenseman scoring in the SJHL. He's been nothing but dynamic all year long. So congrats, Max Chakrabarty. The Sastel goaltender of the month. Who else? but Matthew Keeper. Best name, Nugsy, for a goaltender?
I mean, it's so obvious. Yeah.
It's so obvious. Matthew Keeper, the keeper. He had a 6-0 1-1 record, undefeated in regulation in the month of January. 2 shutouts, 1.84 goals against, .935 save percentage. This guy has been a wizard since joining the Flin Flon Bombers. Rookie of the month, of course, that's for IKS Media. Steven Starenka of the Estevan Bruins. This guy's impact since joining the Bruins around the trade deadline has been huge. Yeah, he's really helped ignite that offense, Nugsy, for a team that was really struggling prior to him arriving. Not saying he's the only one that's been doing it, but man, has he been impactful. So Rookie of the Month for Steven Starenka. Great job there. And then finally, the Cantera Seeds Saskatchewan Player of the Month goes to our buddy Daza Mitchell in 7 starts.
Friend of the show.
In 7 starts in January, a 4-2-0-1 record, a 2.68 goals against, a 9.26 save percentage. Big numbers for a great kid, great player. So I'm sure Humboldt fans are so far very pleased with how that trade has worked out, and I'm sure it'll just keep paying off as we go. So there you go. There's the Players of the Month for January. Want to touch on any of those guys or anything there?
I hope Daza doesn't care to get different pads. I love the Christmas tree setup. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
It's different, but like if I'm a shooter...
Let's throw that graphic up one more time,
If I'm a shooter
Steven.
going down in on Daz there, like...
It's like an optical
I'm just
illusion.
like, huh.
Yeah, it's like...
Interesting.
It's almost like you... I think Steven, he's
Christmas
just like,
tree.
No. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I like it. There's not a single ounce of red in the rest of the jersey combo, but I just really... I think it's great. And I honestly think Humboldt should consider adding red to their logo.
Yeah. I did notice... you can come back to us. I did notice that Gage Roberts... did get his Nipawin stuff.
Oh, did he?
Finally, and he looks really sharp with that True Nipawin pads and whatnot. Obviously, True makes a lot of stuff, but
yeah, I'm a big fan of that color scheme. I always
beautiful.
have been. Yeah.
So good for Gage because he had his Fort Saskatchewan stuff for a while, and he's all in on Nipawin. So good for him.
All right,
and he's been wonderful for the Hawks.
He has been really good, and obviously a shout out against Flin Flon.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We're going to go into a fun topic now. We're just going to have some fun. We're going to rattle off some names.
Make people mad at us.
Make people mad at us, for sure. We're going to go top 5 forwards, and just in our opinions, top 5 defensemen, top 5 goalies, and then Rookie of the Year talk. We're going to get into Rookie of the Year talk. We're not going to do the other awards right now, but Rookie of the Year we're going to get into. So, Nugsy, I'm going to start with you. Let's go with your top 5 forwards in the league today.
Sure. Okay, so we don't have time to like go crazy forever. So
we don't have to dive in too deep.
Yeah.
This is
so
just
my top 5 forwards,
and
and I went with my. I had to go with 6, so don't be mad at me. I'm sorry. Top 6, but these are the best to me, and just in terms of being tied. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
Just being the most impactful and could just take over a game. So number 1 for me is Zach Summers. Just the way he's developed, just hitting people too. So he's the best forward in the league, in my opinion, overall. Ethan DK, Weyburn Red Wings, just an end-to-end machine every time he wants to. Got to choose to do it more often, Ethan, but he's wonderful. Jerome Maharaj is 3, league leader in points for a long time and assists still. Keith Gruner for Flin Flon, just all around, wins faceoff, plus 29 as well, which leads forwards and plus minus. Jacob Streetsy, is he the most pure goal scorer in the SJHL? Probably. And then my 5B is Nikita Ivashenko because I just saw him dance everywhere. So
fair enough.
Summers, DK, Maharaj, Gruner, Streetsy, and Ivashenko.
I mean, it's hard to argue with any of those. I'd go, my number 1 would be Ethan DK. I'd put him a little bit ahead of Zach Summers. I love that you had Zach Summers that high, though. I'd put Maharaj 2, Streetsy 3. I'm going to go Riley Kotai 4.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll go with Jaron Denway 5.
Yeah, so
Keith Gruner was my 6. So there you go. If I had 6, I had to put Keith
so
Gruner
the battle...
I might actually put Keith Gruner higher. Just saying. I'll put him higher.
Sure.
I'll move him up a bit.
The battle that I had was like, who's the most talented or who impacts the game more often? And guys like Kotai and Ivashenko, you go down the list, Denwaye, even Koya, throw him in there, etc.
Ruthven is a name I was going to think
Ruthven, about. So the bunch of guys, like they're so impactful at different times. Kent Moores even. Yeah. So impactful at different times, but just how often. Do it more often and you'll get on my list.
Sure.
That's all.
I love it. Yeah. We're having fun here, folks.
Having fun.
We're having fun. Defensemen. Let's go top 5 defensemen here. Nugsy, I'll let you go ahead.
Sure. Number one, and I don't think it's close, honestly. Like, I honestly don't think it's close. The best defenseman in the SJHL is Nicholas Andrusiak of the Melfort Mustangs. I know he's not leading the league in points to put defenseman, but exactly. To me, he's the best. Number two is Liam Hunks. Can you call me Homer if you want, but I love my Hunk. So he does everything, and Mike Reagan's talked a lot about how he's a lot better defensively even than he thought, and I knew he was going to be very good defensively too. So Andrusiak, Hunks. 3 is another Melfort Mustang, Ty Thornton. Yeah. Just again, all the way around, doesn't do anything wrong ever. Oakley McIlwain is 4. He leads the league in plus minus at plus 34. And Jordan Grill, who would beat anybody. I would love to see, well, he'd probably lose, but it would be close. Jordan Grill versus Ethan DK in a foot race, because Jordan Grill can absolutely fly. And obviously DK looks like he's on a cheat code or something when he's skating. So DK's faster, but Grill is not that far off. And so those are the top 5. Come at me if you want.
Okay, run down your list again really quick.
So Andrusiak, Hunks, Thornton, McIlwain, and Grill.
Okay, love that.
And I know that Cody Mapes and Max Chakrabarty, who I think is a wonderful kid, is going to yell at me, and that's totally fine. Show me Max. Show me in the playoffs. Show me when it's tough.
I've seen lots of these guys so much this year, so I'm gonna go from what I've seen in certain situations and circumstances. My number 1 is Oakley McIlwain. I just love his skill set and his size with everything else. The right shot. He's got a big boomer of a shot when he wants to use it. I just think he's a very effective player overall. I think Humboldt's got a really good one. I will go Andrusiak 2. I could have easily put him 1. I'm going to put Chakrabarty 3. And the reason I'm doing that is just because every time I've seen him, it just seems like he's such a dynamic player. He can do so much with the puck. I feel like he's gotten better over the season without it. And I think he's just a dynamic player overall. And obviously, he has some talented players to feed the puck to, but at the same time, I think it goes both ways. I think it's also he's feeding the puck to these guys and giving them good opportunities and putting them in good spots to score. I'm going to put Rylan Silzer in my top 5. I'm going to put him at number 4. I've been a big fan of his for a couple years now. I just think he's such a solid player, and he does so much for that L'Orange team. So I'm going to put him there. Number 5, I'm struggling to pick like one guy. I kind of want to go off the board and put Boston Harkness in this group.
Interesting, yeah.
I just really, again, it's a skill set thing.
Noted member of Team Noogstradamus.
Yeah, I know. It's a skill set thing for me. Just with the size that he has again, and I think. He does so much for Melville. Maybe he doesn't put up as many points because he's got 22 points, which isn't nothing. But I'm going to throw his name in the mix just because we can.
So I love that you put like Silzer and Harkness in there because, and I thought the same way. I thought like if you're a defenseman, like defend, and again like Chakrabarty, like Harkness. These guys are right out there. Like I've talked about how much I love Josh Carman. I think he's as underrated as anybody. Kieran Ronan deserves to be knocking on the door big time. Yeah. I'm a huge Kieran Ronan fan. Yeah. Nobody's a bigger Kieran Ronan fan than me. Nobody.
Get copyright strikes now.
So there you go. But I feel like these 5 guys really defend as well.
Well, a guy like Cole Tanchuk even. We don't talk about him enough.
His offense maybe is a tiny bit behind those guys, but
just in terms of your defend category. Anyways.
Luke Lepper.
Yeah.
He could fly as well.
There's some good
Another
ones.
option.
We could go on, of course. And please, if you hear this and you're like, what about my guy?
Feel free to yell
at us. Know. Let us know.
We opened ourselves
There's lots
to
of good ones. Yep. Kalen Whittingham, we didn't talk about him. Ty Thornton.
Having a big year, I said Ty Thornton.
You said Ty Thornton. You're right. And I should have probably put Liam Hunks in my list, but at the same time, there's so many names. I wanted to mention a couple other guys. Goalies, top 5 goalies. Now this one, I feel like there's not as much debate. A little bit more consent. Are you saying there's more options? I feel like this one is a little bit more narrowed down. Obviously, we don't have as many options.
There's a great. There's a great.
Do you want to go top 3 for goalies just to make it harder?
Or
do you want to just throw some names?
We can go 3 if you want.
Okay. But I guess when we put it into order.
There's an opening to the great MLS podcast, MLS Extra Time. And one of the lines that somebody spews in that podcast intro is, are you watching the game or are you just looking at the stats?
It's true.
And for the goalies, to me, it's about watching the game. But anyways, I'll let you go.
You want me to go?
We can go. Do you want to go top 3 or 5? Because I wrote 5.
Let's go 5.
We can go 3. Okay,
Putting out names is not going to hurt anybody's feelings. Sure. I think it's good for the league, so we might as well. I'm going to go my number 1. This guy has been so good all year long. I'm
Yeah.
not talking about a guy who got here midway through the year. I'm talking about a guy who's been here
Sure.
since day one, and he won his job over a guy who was a goalie of the year candidate last year. I'm putting Angelo Zoll as my number one.
Zoli the goalie.
I'm going to go with Matthew Keeper in 2 because I think his impact is undeniable since he's arrived in the league with Flin Flon, so I'll put him at number 2, and his numbers are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now, is he underrated? It's a question.
Is
that
who
we're-
underrated?
Matthew Keeper.
Wow.
Is he this year's Harmon Laser-Hume, Nugsy? I'm joking. I'm bringing up some old debates and jokes from
Yikes.
last year. Kelly Lewick is listening somewhere, our designer from upstairs, and he's giggling. Christian Coombs. Can't deny, I'm putting him at number 3. I'm going to go Nick Jeanette at number 4, the youngster. I feel like he's found his spot, a 920 save percentage. He's 3rd in the league in goals against this year. And for a young guy to come in on a team that's been through some stuff this year and some changes, lots of goalies in and out. Nick Jeanette has come in and really...
That's a great call.
He nabbed it.
I love Nick
He's
Jeanette.
nabbed that spot. And for number 5, it's tough because there's like 4 guys I want to go with for number 5.
Sure.
I'm going to put Daza in this conversation.
Okay.
He's my number 5, but there's like 3 guys that I feel really bad not saying their name. So I'm going to let you say your 5, and then we can go into some
Before I
honorable
go
mentions.
into my 5, there's a real argument about the best 06 goalie in this league.
Yeah.
Because there are 3 premium 06 goalies. Obviously, I'm talking about O'Halloran,
Yeah.
Malacca, and Jeanette there, and also Callum Craig had
Yeah, I
such
mean,
a wonderful
Malacca's
start
so
to the
good,
year,
yeah,
and Craig is
exactly.
still a big piece there in Yorkton. But yeah, well, hey, so there you go.
Malacca
I do
is
love
just on the outside of
Yeah.
qualified goalies. So when I was looking at the
Yeah,
list earlier,
sure.
he was just on the outside of that list. But
sure. Well, okay.
he's
so
in
for,
that conversation.
For me, like I think there's a big enough sample size to put Matty Keeper number 1.
Yeah, fair
Even though
enough.
his showcase wasn't terrific, but maybe that's my fault.
It's your fault,
It's
yeah.
probably my fault.
Sure.
Because I looked at him and
Yeah, that's a
and
given.
Whatnot.
That's a given, yeah.
Number
You
2,
looked at him,
it's
yeah.
in the pregame there, it's
you
probably my
looked at
fault. Zoli the goalie is number 2.
Sure.
And number 3, and you're gonna yell at me. I don't care. It's Spencer Borsos.
No, you're.
The guy is
I don't think you
absolutely
have.
elite.
I'm not going to yell at you. I
Thank
think you have a
Mr.
very
Mustache.
valid argument.
And
for
I
this.
watch him all the time.
Yeah.
And again, best attitude
I've
ever.
seen Notre Dame more than any other team in person this year,
good.
and to me, every time I've seen him, he's been fantastic.
spectacular, yeah.
So I don't blame you at all for saying that.
So Mr. B sauce,
Yeah.
Mr. Boar sauce. I like to make a little put a little graphic out of some boar sauce, like spaghetti sauce.
Yeah.
4th is Daza. When push comes to shove, the chips are down. I don't know which goal you want in the SJ than Mr. Daz. And then number 5, just body of work. Again, like he plays behind such a great team. But Christian Coombs does show up when the Mustangs do need him to.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing. And what else can he do, really, other than his job?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Coombs 5, but yeah, there's some beauties knocking on the door. I mean, Nick Jeanette is probably number 6 for me, but
Yeah, one of my favorite guys that I think his numbers don't do him justice, Justin Merrick. I feel like he's got the talent, he's got the ability.
on his day,
On
his day, Justin is the best.
exactly.
On his day, Justin is the best.
I think
of
in
this
terms
group,
of a
but-
goalie, when I look at all these names, I mean, there's lots of guys who can win a lot of games, but I feel like,
Yeah.
like you just kind of mentioned, when Justin Merrick he's probably the one that I think could steal a game more than almost anyone.
Yeah.
Despite his numbers, and his numbers aren't even that bad, honestly. They're
Yeah.
fine. A guy like Graham Brown, we talk about him a lot on
Gage
the
Roberts
show.
even.
Yeah, he's coming in there.
Oh,
to
Matt,
this
yeah,
conversation.
Brown's had a great year, too.
Callum Craig has been fantastic
the
in his
problem with-
young career so far. Callum Craig.
The problem with
but
Brown is there's such a timeshare
Yeah,
in
that's the-
L'Orange, right?
Yeah.
With Falk, so
Exactly. They both actually played the exact same amount of games. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why those guys weren't included. They're definitely in the conversation. And Brett O'Halloran was a guy for me that I was like, how do I
he's
leave him
terrific.
off this list?
Yeah.
He's been so impactful this year. But
Yeah.
there you go, top 5. Now, let's move on now to the Rookie of the Year conversation. So this is going to go a couple of ways. We can go with, now, are we including Nikita Ivashenko and Max Chakrabarty in this conversation or not? Because I think that's going to be the big
I think you
decider
can
here.
include Chakrabarty, but not Ivashenko.
Right. Yeah,
That's
I'm kind of in
my-
that same
that's
boat.
my guess.
So I guess like different category names we could throw into this category. Chakrabarty, if we're including him, Herchak, Tate Duncan's had a great year, Thomas Reese, Hudson Kerr, Raiden Zacharias, Will Witter, right? We got those kinds of names. And then if you look at the goaltender side of things, Nick Jeanette, Brett O'Halloran. To me, Nugsy, this is a goalie's award to maybe lose this year. I could see it happening where we have 2 goalies that are nominated, and it's between one of the two of them.
Yeah.
And Nick Jeanette and Brett O'Halloran. I think they've been that good. Do you agree with me in that, or are you thinking that Max Chakrabarty's just been too good, and if he's considered in the race, he has to be the winner?
So I have two answers. The answer is what I think it should be. One of those answers is what I think it should be, and one of the answers is what I think it will be.
Yeah.
So I think it will be Chakrabarty because of the points.
Yeah.
And Max has been great. I'm not hitting your hammer and Max. From the first preseason game, even Hounds played Weyburn in the preseason. And I was like, this kid is going to light the league on fire.
Yeah.
So I think Chakrabarty's going to win it. I think it should be O'Halloran with the way that he's been so huge
the workload
to carry the Kindersley Clippers. So if it was up to me, I would pick O'Halloran, but it's probably going to be Chakrabarty.
Yeah, there you go. I think I'm right with you. I would say O'Halloran would be mine. I think Nick Jeanette's right there in the conversation. But if Chakrabarty is going to keep having a point per game, it might be tough to give it to anybody else. Jackson Herchak is going to be in the conversation. I know there's some forwards
committed
that have had some
and whatever.
good years.
It looks good for the league.
Yeah. But I think how many do we nominate every year? Was it like 5 last year for Rookie of the Year? Or is it always 3?
I think it's
if it's just 3,
5.
if it's 5, then I could see 3 skaters. But I think there's going to be 2 goalies. I think there's going to be 2 goalies nominated this year.
I mean, and the only issue with Jeanette, of course, is that White Melville's had all sorts of goalies.
Right. It's been a rotating door. But he has 21 games played, and if the way things are going, he might end up getting.
And boy, have they turned it around in Melville, eh?
Wow. Oh, man. What does Melville play? They have 44, so they have, 12 games left? Is that the math? So, he could end up with 30 games played.
They've got Ben Lorette, though, still, too, and he's good.
That's fair.
So.
But if he gets 9 out of the 12 or 8 out of the 12, he'll get close to 30 starts. I think that's enough to put him in the conversation. But I think that does it for this, because we have a guest in waiting, and we want to get to the guest now. You good to go?
Yep.
Let's do it now. I just had, as I said that, I swallowed and something got stuck in my throat. There we go. So we're moving on. We're going to be joined now on the Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association Coaches Convo with head coach and general manager of the Nipawin Hawks, Tad Kozun. Tad, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Obviously, it's been a pretty exciting couple weeks in Nipawin in front of the home crowd. Let's start there, because I don't think we can bury the lead too much. Obviously, upsetting the number 1 seed a couple weeks ago, and just this week, obviously, the number 2 seed Flin Flon Bombers. Not only that, also ending the streak. So it must be pretty fun times in Nipawin over the last couple weeks, I would say.
Yeah, the last couple weeks have obviously been pretty good. Being able to beat Melfort and obviously Flin Flon, 2 teams that we obviously play a lot, being in the same division and have a good rivalry with them. I know we've played Melfort pretty tough all year, and Flin Flon's been a team we've recently kind of struggled with. So to be able to do that on home ice, it's definitely a big confidence boost for our young group.
Yeah, with the way the season's been going, we've said a lot on this show how we're so impressed with how the team has played, and there never seems to be an easy night, despite where you guys sit in the standings. With whoever you guys are playing against, which is a kudos to yourself and the players as well, and everybody else involved with the team. How great was it, though, to do that on home ice in front of your home crowd? We talked to Kyle McIntyre a couple weeks ago. It seems like ticket sales are still going strong in Nipawin. Maybe they're up a little bit this year, so that's great to see. But how great was it to get these 2 wins in front of the home crowd?
It's obviously huge, especially with the year that we're having and for how young we are. We know we need to stick to our process and just continue on finding that consistency of day in and day out. When you look at our roster right now, we've got 4 guys that were here with us last year, which is very, very little when you look around the league. Most guys have at least 10 that are back. So just finding that consistency and making sure these guys are putting in the work every day, and then obviously getting those 2 big wins at home. It's great for our fan base who continue to support us through everything that that's gone on this year, and we know they got our back. So to be able to put those types of efforts in and get those 2 bigs was obviously huge.
Yeah, just talk about, I know you have enough to deal with on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis as a coach, but to kind of dream about next year, just talk about maybe the message to the guys, like, stick with it, stick with the program, and come back, and, we have something really special here. How much has that been the message?
It's been huge for us. Obviously, we want to make sure we finish out the year strong. The start of January obviously wasn't great after Christmas, when I thought in November, December we were really taking those steps forward. And then recently we found that that to play better and make sure we're doing things the right way. And it's a conversation we had with our guys there the other day. Is You look at the U18 AAA leagues. I mean, they're all wrapping up their regular seasons now and getting ready for playoffs. And here we are with, I think we've got 12 games left or 14 games left on the year now, and we're still playing meaningful hockey. And when you look at our February schedule, you got 13 games. Well, lots of these kids haven't played that many games in a month, so we've got to make sure that we keep pushing forward. And there's no sense of waving the white flag saying, oh, okay, here we go, we got to look to next year. But the biggest thing is guys got to play for their jobs for next year as well. They when you have a year like this, you're finding out which guys you're going to move on with and which guys can't be a part of it. And that's part of the thing, is making sure we do things the right way and continue to develop these kids, because when you want to make sure you put your best foot forward every single night. And we want to be, the fun part for us right now is, we can upset a lot of positions in the playoffs. And, there's definitely teams that are going to want different matchups, and we can play a big role in that. So that's definitely our game plan going forward, is to, play our best hockey and make sure we continue to develop. And we can't just sit here and look forward to next year, because this year's not over.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously we could go down the list of your roster and talk about a bunch of dudes, and we could do that a little bit. But one guy I want to kind of highlight, even though he's a young guy like most of the guys on your team, is Ashton Tate. And, I've been just so impressed. I was impressed with him in Winnipeg. I thought it was terrific at the showcase. I thought you guys were really well represented overall at the showcase. But, Ashton coming in, having played a whole bunch of Western League games already and having lots of junior experience, how much did that help, him coming to the room, helping Finley and all those guys, lead by example? This is what it takes to play at really high levels.
Yeah, he's been really good for us lately. When he first came back, it took him a little while to kind of get settled into how we want to play. And obviously when you get sent down from the WHL, maybe you're a little disappointed, but you've got to seize the opportunity, and that's what he's doing right now. He's tremendous on the defensive side of the puck. I think he's second or third on our team in block shots. He might even be first, and he's reliable in all zones, and the stuff that he can do with the puck is pretty special. We're always on him to shoot pucks a little bit more, because sometimes he makes one too many moves, but it definitely helps when they're coming down and they've got that junior experience of only being an 18-year-old, and you're coming in and you've got 2 years under your belt already, and just helping the young guys, showing them what it takes to get to that next level. And I mean, the goal for us is to get him back to where he wants to go, and he's obviously been tremendous, and he continues to get better every single day.
One guy who we've talked about a little bit a few weeks ago from your roster is Vito Biondo III. Obviously, just recently committing to Maryville University in the ACHA, so that's great news for Vito, because it's right by his hometown, which is great. Talk about the decision, though, Tad, because it was talked about. I mean, we talked about it on this show at least. Just obviously with the younger squad, maybe keeping around a 20-year-old guy like Vito with this younger roster so he can stick around for the rest of the year. How valuable has he been to keep, and what went into that decision? I guess, I'll just let you speak on that. What went into the decision with Vito?
The biggest thing for us is how much he means to our team and means to this community, and he's been with us for 3 years. So, if there was an opportunity out there that presented itself that was going to help us for this year and next year, then obviously we were looking at every avenue. But for how much he means to this group, and it just was a really tough decision, and obviously, he just meant too much to this locker room and too much to this group to move out. And the way he leads every single day, how hard he plays, and shows these guys that if you're going to have success in the league, this is how you got to play. And just day in and day out, he's always doing the right thing. So it didn't make sense for us to move him out. And obviously, he's really helping these young guys come along every single day.
Yeah, for sure. And, one of those young guys that's kind of been put into this, number one situation. We were, right before you came on, Tad, talking about how good the 06 birth year goalies are in this league, because there's a whole bunch of good ones. But one of the best has to be Gage Roberts. I know you watch him, on a daily basis. Just talk about the development just in front of your eyes you've seen from that kid.
Yeah, I mean, to get the 2 wins recently, especially against those top 2 teams, I mean, he's a guy that's dialed in every single day, and he competes hard. Obviously, we were carrying 2 06s there to start, and kind of sharing the net. But Gage just really sees the opportunity to grab the net right now, and we obviously couldn't be happier with the way he's playing. The biggest thing is just making sure that you stay in check and don't take anything for granted. Just because you've got the net now, obviously goalies can go up and down, but he's been so consistent for us here lately, making all the big time saves, making some, making the saves that he needs to. And, obviously he's been playing the puck really well lately too, and putting us in good situations so we can break the puck out faster. But he's a guy that puts in the work every single day. And, he's so proud to be a Nipawin Hawk. And obviously he's our RBC, our RBC guy this year. So he's tremendous in the community and always out in the boat and helping out anytime anybody needs it.
Yeah, I know. Papa Roberts is fired up to be part of the Nipawin Hawks club as well there too. So congratulations to the Roberts for the year that Gage is having. I also got to ask you about, the showcase there in Winnipeg. Seemed like, you were watching there pretty closely. You had a whole line on the Young Guns team there between Will Witter and Mason Karkachuk and Ashton Tate. A couple of guys there, especially Karkachuk and Tate, who already played a lot of junior hockey. So that probably helps them. But what'd you see from those guys in Winnipeg?
I thought they showed very well. Obviously, Will wasn't able to play the second day, but as an 07, jumping in this league, we know it's obviously an older league, and Will's right at the top of our scoring charts, and he's come just as advertised when we drafted him. He's a guy that you can't ask for much more. He's in situations that most first year kids in our league don't, or any junior league get. He's on our power play. He's playing PK. He's playing top minutes. He's playing against the best guys in the league, and he's been able to do it every single day. So he's been a real treat this year to watch develop, and he's obviously got a very bright future ahead of him. And we've already obviously touched on Tate, and then with Karki there, obviously being a returning guy from last year that got to learn the ropes from our older guys last year. He's really coming into his own now, and obviously had to miss some time there with an injury, but since he's been back, he's starting to find his groove again, and he's a guy that he's so dedicated to his craft, and he wants to be the best every single day. So it's a lot of fun to coach all three of them, and I know they want to get better every single day, and they want to push this program to where we want to get to.
Yeah, absolutely. And last one for me, Tad. Always appreciate your time, but I always talk about through thick and thin. It seems like the Nipawin community comes behind the Hawks, and I was so impressed at the game of the month there against Melfort. Even though you guys were in a bit of a slide and things weren't going great at that moment, it seemed like it was packed again. And obviously, you're a local guy there too. Just talk about how much that means, and maybe if you also have a message to the Nipawin community about sticking through the thick and thin. And how much, how proud you might be of those people, because those people have just stuck through your team this year and maybe deserve, a great end and a great next year too.
Yeah, the town of Nipawin obviously loves the Hawks, and their support has obviously been huge. We know we had to kind of go through a little bit of a rebuild here where we went young. It's something that we thought we needed to do to get it to where we want to go to. And obviously it's part of the process that we've got going on here, but the fans and the community have been behind us right from day one, and the support's been obviously huge. I know our season ticket sales were up massively this year, and our crowds have been much bigger, and it's there's nothing like when the cage is packed and the horns are going and everybody's cheering, and it's it definitely gives the boys a pep in their step, and they're excited to hit the ice every time we come to home. And the biggest thing is obviously we want to make sure we finish off the year strong, and then we got to make sure we take those next steps next year with obviously everybody getting older and guys having the junior experience now and everything like that. And, the support from the community's been tremendous, and I know it'll continue to be tremendous because I know how much this team means to the community, obviously being a very small market team. And if it wasn't for them, none of the things that the Hawks can do would ever be possible.
Yeah, huge kudos to the community there. I've seen it for years too. That Nipawin community is fantastic. And one thing that I've compared it specifically on a couple of our shows as of late. But looking at a team like Yorkton this year, who had so many returners because they were so young last year. I look at your roster this year. I feel like you're even a little bit younger than Yorkton was last year. You're going to be bringing back, hypothetically, a large percentage of the roster. How much does that help in terms of just the community really getting behind this team, knowing that some of these guys now are going to be, taking a huge step, like you kind of just mentioned, a huge step into next year? Is that excitement kind of building as the year goes along? Have you sensed that?
For sure it is. I mean, when you look at our roster, we've got 22 currently on our roster, and we can return 20 of them. Obviously, we lose Vito Biondo, and then lose Nick Jerkikis, our other goaltender. So when you see how far some of these guys have come this year, especially at the start of the year when we knew we were going to struggle probably at the start of the year a little bit just to get these guys accustomed to junior hockey, and it's just so different when they're on the ice every single day. They're not going to school, they're doing community service, and they're in the gym all the time, and it's just fun to watch them go. And I mean, every year you look, everybody usually goes up in point totals, and they know how the league runs. And the biggest thing is just they're going to know how we operate here next year now when they come in. And when you only had 4 or 5 returning guys from the year before, you have to lean on those 4 or 5 guys. Well, when you look at next year, you can lean on 20 of them to show the new guys that this is how we do things here, and this is how we compete. And it makes our job, a little bit easier just because you don't have to make sure everybody's on top of it all the time. You've got everybody in that room that knows exactly what's going to happen, and then we can just kind of hit the ground running right off the bat.
Love that. Last one for you here, Tad, and we'll let you get going. Obviously, a big weekend coming up. It doesn't get any easier after your last couple of games there. Melfort, home and home series. What's the message for the boys going into the weekend for a big Friday, Saturday, home and home?
Just continue to do what we did against them last time, and obviously against Flin Flon. We obviously know they're a good team, and watching their game against Weyburn last night, obviously all power play goals, which was pretty crazy. But we've just got to make sure to stick to our game plan and play the right way. When we play the right way, we're generating chances, and we're keeping teams to the outside and minimizing the grade A scoring chances. So we've just got to make sure to stick to Hawks hockey and play in your face and be on top of guys, and then good things happen. And the biggest thing is just we've got to keep building off obviously our last game. And we've been in tight contests here the last 4 games, and just got to make sure we continue down that path and continue to build off of that and get better every day.
Perfect. Well, Tad, good luck the rest of the way. It's been a great season watching you guys kind of develop, and we're excited to see what comes next for you guys. So we'll let you get back to work, but thanks for joining us. We'll chat again down the road.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, there's Tad Kozun, of course, head coach and general manager of the Nipawin Hawks. Great chat there, Nugsy. And like I said, it's a big weekend for them. So why don't we look ahead now, Nugsy, to the weekend? Of course, there is a bundle of games. I believe, am I not mistaken, it's a Super Saturday this weekend? I'm pretty sure it is. Everybody's playing. So let's have a look at Friday's schedule now as we dive into the 4 games that are taking place tomorrow night. Estevan's going to be in Flin Flon at the Whitney Forum. Nipawin will be in Melfort, as we just talked about. Weyburn's going to be in La Ronge. It should be a fun one. And Humboldt will be in Kindersley. So that'll be a fun one as well. We move on to Saturday, and look at this. It's a Super Saturday. The Battlefords North Stars are playing the Yorkton Terriers in what could be, and actually is, a battle for 4th place. Now, obviously, it'll be a tie if Battlefords wins this one, but boy, that would make the storylines a lot better going forward. So that's going to be a massive game. Melfort takes on Nipawin in the rematch of Friday night. Kindersley takes on Humboldt as they flip venues for a home and home series. Notre Dame and Melville get in the action. Holy, look at that. Melville's had all week off, so they're back on Saturday. And they face Notre Dame, who has had 2 games earlier this week. Weyburn against La Ronge again, obviously a rematch of Friday in the same venue. And Estevan in Flin Flon, again, a rematch from Friday in the same venue. And then there's 1 game on Sunday as well. Notre Dame takes on the Yorkton Terriers. So, Nugsy, what do you got coming on? There's, 11 games this weekend?
Makeup game there on Sunday for a little bit of, I believe it was a weather thing earlier in the year between Notre Dame there and Yorkton on Super Bowl Sunday.
Come on. I know, right?
Come on.
What time did that game start, guys?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
So,
oh, boy.
Maybe I'll have the game on beside my computer as I'm broadcasting.
Hey, Brett, just so you know, Brett Pilkington, Nugsy's going to get sick after the game on Saturday. I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I've got Game of the Month Friday, and then I got to run to Melville on Saturday. So
it's a good point.
Should be interesting. Look, I mean, Battlefords, Yorkton,
that's
that
a big
battle
one.
In the middle there, always juicy. A pair with Kindersley, Humboldt too.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
Right
oh my
there,
gosh.
down there, like past years, Humboldt's owned Kindersley.
Yeah.
Not this year.
Nope.
It's a real battle. Obviously, nobody's hotter than Humboldt right now, really. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in person. So, Clayton Jardine, nobody works harder to make a game plan, figure something out. But the Broncos look tough to stop right now.
Yep.
So we'll
Those are
see. We'll
probably
see
the
with
two
those
for me
two.
too.
And the last one I'll say is I'm always interested when the top teams, especially, get a bloody nose. How do they reply?
Sure.
What's the next night look like? And Flin Flon hosts Estevan for a pair.
Yeah.
Hey,
We'll see.
Get yourself ready there, Shaughnessy and Boteau. Like it'll be you got to be good because the Bombers respond so well to tough situations.
Yeah.
They're gonna do it again. You think?
That's two things that I was going to say.
Sorry.
Every
Steal all your storylines.
No. That was sorry. One thing that I was going to say was Estevan. That series is going to be interesting because of that reason, but also because their playoff hopes dangle on. I'm going to say this weekend could be a huge determining factor whether they stay alive or not in that race.
Staying alive.
Exactly. Thank you. And then I always look at the number 9 team and whoever's in that spot, and I think going forward the rest of the way, that spot's usually at this time of year crucial. Every game is so crucial for the 9 team, and that's Larange, and they have Weyburn twice. So that's going to be a very hard weekend. But if they can get those 2 wins, depending on how the Humboldt-Kindersley series goes, obviously I think you would assume that Larange probably wants one of those teams to win both those games so that both teams don't get points, if you know what I'm saying. Larange is probably cheering for Humboldt this weekend so that they can stay close to Kindersley.
And Flin Flon.
But they kind of, at the same time, it almost doesn't matter. They kind of hold their own fate in their own hands. They have to win games. And 2 games at home against a very good Weyburn team, if they can win those and send a message to the rest of the league, that would go a long way if they want to keep their hopes alive as well. So those are the 2 things that I was just going to point out because we're in playoff mode now, and it's not just who's going to play who, it's who's going to make it. And we're getting close to a point now where we might be able to end that conversation depending on how a couple games go in the next week or 2. So that's where I'm at. Are these teams going to keep their hopes alive, or could this weekend maybe get close to putting an end to the conversation? We'll see. I don't want to say anything too much more than that because, anyways, it's been a good week. It's going to be a good weekend. Obviously, Super Bowl Sunday, but who cares? The Notre Dame Hounds are playing the Yorkton Terriers, so nobody's going to be watching the Super Bowl.
Did you guys have like a sad face, like a sad sound back there? Like, wah, wah.
I think Bryce has a couple. Yeah.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Nobody's watching the Super Bowl on Sunday. We know that. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media channels because we do have you covered. Get your Flow Hockey subscription. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and of course on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And thanks to all of our subscribers. Yeah, thank you all of our subscribers, but also our sponsors. Canterra Seeds, Borgo, Capital Automall, Sask Lotteries, Chevrolet, Saskatchewan Construction Safety Association, obviously the sponsor of our coaches convos. Nutrien, Tourism Saskatchewan, Sask Energy, UPL, the sponsor of our broadcast. You can see if you're watching on YouTube, back on the door and on the wall up here, UPL is all over the place. Thank you, UPL. SGEU, Great Western, SGI, and RBC. So there you go, Nugsy. Last words to you.
Get out and watch because things are getting very serious, and I have felt, and I'm sure you agree, the style of the game has noticeably changed.
Yeah.
It is tighter. It is more physical now.
Yeah.
So get out if you like that type of thing. 'Cause who doesn't?
Must-see events. Thank you to everybody in the back. We got Bryce and Steven today. Bryce, you want to say hi, boys? There they are.
Steven,
Thanks, fellas. Appreciate
Bryce.
everything you guys do. These guys save our lives a lot. So thank you,
Yep.
guys. Kelly upstairs does a lot of work. Nugsy, thanks for joining me. Tad Kozun, thanks for jumping on with us today. Keep it locked to SJHL.ca over the weekend. We'll keep you covered. And get out to the rink, as Nugsy
And game
said.
of the month tomorrow.
Game of the month
Let's
tomorrow
go.
in
Kindersley.
Kindersley, thank you. Yes, Humboldt and Kindersley on SaskTel, game of the month. Got to mention that. We'll be back on Monday for SJHL Weekly. But until then, enjoy the weekend, everyone. It's going to be a good one.